For most of us, an emergency is something sudden. A phone call in the night, a siren in the distance, a few terrible seconds when ordinary life splits open and everything becomes panic, noise and fear. But for first responders, those moments are the job. They walk into burning buildings when everyone else is trying to get out. They cross police tape, enter darkened lots, step inside shops where people are hiding behind shelves, and search places where something has already gone terribly wrong. Their work is built on training, discipline, instinct, and the ability to keep moving when everyone around them has frozen. And yet, some calls leave behind more than paperwork, bruises, and bad memories. Some stay with the people who answered them because something happened that no report could properly explain.
We all belong outside. We're drawn to nature. It calls to us. Whether it's the recorded sounds of the ocean we doze off to, or the succulents that adorn our homes, nature makes all of our lives richer, calmer, and frankly, better. Despite all this, we often go about our busy lives removed from it. But the outdoors is closer than we realize. With All Trails, you can discover trails nearby or trails worth traveling to and explore confidently with offline maps and on-trail navigation. Whether you're looking for a laid-back walk with family or something more adventurous to get your heart pumping, All Trails gives you the tools you need to get out there and find your outside. Download the free app today and make the most of your summer with All Trails.
At Nature's Bounty, the belief is simple. You already have a brilliant body. Supplements just help support your journey. For over 50 years, Nature's Bounty has offered vitamins and supplements to help you eat, sleep, thrive, repeat. From magnesium glycinate for heart and muscle support to hair growth capsules for fuller, thicker hair. And probiotics with 20 billion live cultures for digestion. Nature's Bounty. It's in your nature to thrive. Learn more at naturesbounty.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Everyone's talking about protein lately, but how do you actually get enough of it? Muscle Milk. Muscle Milk has a great tasting new formula with no artificial sweeteners, flavors, or added colors. It's high quality, complete protein designed to support healthy muscles with fewer ingredients than the previous formula and 26 to 42 grams of protein. For when you're stuck in meetings or need a post-workout recovery. Available in chocolate, vanilla cream, cookies and cream, and strawberries and cream. Try the new great tasting Muscle Milk today. Available in stores nationwide. Muscle Milk. Protein for all.
Ever notice how life's best stories don't happen in your living room? They happen on the open road, out on the water, or parked under the stars. At Progressive, they get that you want to focus on the experience, not worry about the what-ifs. That's why they offer quality insurance designed for your ride, whether that's a boat, RV, or motorcycle. Adventure with confidence. Visit Progressive.com and see how easy it is to protect your favorite way to get away. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in D.C. Prices vary based on how you buy.
This message is brought to you by Alloy Health. Let's be honest. Aging can come with some unwelcome changes. Sleep disruptions, hot flashes, brain fog. It can hit hard. And while menopause is inevitable, relief doesn't have to take years. Yet many women wait to seek help, often because they weren't told about options or didn't know where to go. Alloy makes it simple to get support. You'll fill out a quick intake form, connect with a menopause-specialized physician, and receive a personalized treatment plan, all online. Once approved, your prescription ships straight to your door with automatic refills. It's fast, accessible, and you get unlimited messaging with your doctor. Join the 95% of women who saw relief in the first 2 weeks. Head to myalloy.com and use code SXM to get $20 off your first order.
Hello, I'm Sarah and welcome to the Whispering Woods After Dark. I have got some first responder stories today. I've got 4 of them. They run on from each other, so I hope you enjoy. Are you ready for the story? These stories come from 50 real ghost stories of first responders, haunting true stories of ghosts on the job by Eve S. Evans, available on Amazon Kindle. For one firefighter, the job had never been about danger for danger's sake. It had been about being there when someone else had run out of time. He joined the fire service because he wanted to help, because he'd grown up believing that strength was something you used for other people, not yourself. In those early months, that belief made him eager, sometimes too eager, and his officers had already warned him that courage without caution could put an entire crew at risk. The call came in one night for a fire at a 2-story apartment building. By the time the engine was closing in, the smoke could already be smelled before the flames came properly into view. It rose dark against the sky, the kind of heavy black smoke that told the crew it was a building fire, fueled by plastics, rubber, wiring, furniture, and all the ordinary things that turn poisonous once they begin to burn. When the truck stopped, instinct took over. Gear was pulled on, air tanks were secured, masks checked, tools grabbed from the compartments. The firefighter and his partner were ready to go in. But first they were told to hold back while the hose team got water on the entrance and upper floor. They waited outside with the heat rolling off the building, watching jets of water strike the front of the apartments and climb toward the 2nd story, where most of the smoke seemed to be gathering. Then the order came. They went through the front door into the lobby. The fire had not yet reached that part of the building, but that did not make it safe. Above them, the structure was already being weakened. Somewhere over their heads, the fire was eating into floors and ceilings, and every passing minute increased the chance that something would give way. They moved quickly through the first level, knocking on doors, calling out as firefighters, checking for anyone who might still be inside. There was no answer. The first 4 cleared fast. Either the residents had escaped, or they'd not been home when the fire started. The report went back outside, and the crew were told to move up to the 2nd floor, but to stay alert. The fire was not fully under control. Then they heard it. Heavy thumps from above. To the firefighter, it sounded like someone running. He asked his partner whether he had heard it too. His partner had. Footsteps. Someone was upstairs. They radioed the update and headed for the stairwell. Their boots hammered up the stairs, the sound boxed in by the narrow space around them. At the 2nd floor door, the firefighter took off one glove and touched the handle. It was warm but not scorching, which meant the fire had not yet fully taken the space beyond it. He turned it. Smoke swallowed them. Visibility dropped almost instantly. He got low, down on hands and knees where the air was clearer, and began moving through the haze. He shouted into the corridor that they were the fire department, that they were there to help anyone inside. No one replied. He worked his way deeper into the building, checking doors as he went. One apartment stood open. Inside, the air was a little clearer, and when he searched it, he realized it was empty. There was no furniture, No signs at all of anyone living there. Nothing to slow him down. He cleared it quickly and turned back toward the door. That was when he heard running again, right outside. He opened the door fast, expecting to see his partner or someone in trouble in the corridor. Smoke rushed in, and through it he saw the outline of a person moving past him. But it was not his partner. The figure was too small. It had no helmet. There was no sound of breathing gear, no hiss from an oxygen tank, none of the heavy presence of a firefighter moving through smoke. It was someone else. The person ran down the hall and vanished into the murk. The firefighter radioed his partner and told him he had seen someone. They moved after the figure, searching the corridor, checking both directions, looking toward the stairwell and the elevator. But there was nowhere obvious for anyone to have gone. No footsteps answered them now. No doors opened. No voice called back. They kept searching. Still nothing. The firefighter called out again, asking if anyone was there. Only the sound of his own breathing equipment came back to him. He checked with his partner, but his partner had seen no one. He radioed the chief outside and asked if anyone had been reported leaving the building. The answer came back clearly. No one had come out. They finished the search and made their way back down. By then the hose crews had knocked down most of the fire and were dealing with what remained. Outside, with the masks off and the air cold against their faces, his partner looked at him as though he wanted an explanation. The firefighter had none. Another crew later went back through the building and searched it again. They found no trapped resident, no injured person, no one hiding in the smoke. There had been nobody inside. But years later, the firefighter still remembered what he saw in that hallway. It wasn't a shape imagined in panic. To him, it had been a person running through the smoke, close enough that he had followed. And then they were gone. Sometime after midnight, a police officer was driving his usual patrol through town. It was the middle of the week, and the roads were almost empty. The shops were dark, the pavements quiet, and every so often he slowed as he passed an alleyway, glancing into the black spaces between buildings, in case anything was happening out of sight. It had the feeling of one of those nights when nothing much would happen. Ahead of him was the bridge over the river. It was not the best lit part of town, and without other cars passing, the darkness seemed thicker there. The bridge had railings along the side, but in the poor light they were not easy to see, and the place already carried a grim reputation. Over the years, people had gone there to jump into the water below. So as the officer reached the bridge, he slowed. That was when he saw her. A woman was standing near the side of the road, a short distance ahead of him. His headlights caught her only briefly, just enough for him to see her face. And in that moment, something about her expression troubled him. She looked distressed, not merely lost or waiting, but deeply upset, in the way that made him think she might be injured, or perhaps thinking of climbing over the side. There were no other cars around. He pulled over immediately, leaving the engine running so the headlights would keep the bridge lit. He got out of the patrol car and prepared to approach her. But the moment his feet touched the road, he realised something was wrong. The woman had gone. The bridge was empty. For a second he stood there trying to make sense of it. Only moments had passed between him seeing her and pulling over. She couldn't have walked away without him noticing. She couldn't have vanished into a doorway, because there was nowhere for her to go. Then a worse thought struck him. Had she jumped? He hurried to the spot where she'd been standing and looked down over the side of the bridge. At first, the river below was nothing but darkness. Then, as his eyes adjusted, he noticed a shape breaking the surface of the water. It was a car. Most of it was submerged, with only part of the rear still visible above the river. He grabbed his radio and called for urgent backup. He'd no idea how long the vehicle had been in the water, but if anyone was still inside, there might still be time. He checked the bridge again, hoping to see the woman somewhere nearby, but there was no one there. Then he got back in his patrol car, switched on his lights and siren, and drove fast across the bridge towards the riverbank. Another patrol car arrived soon after. A dive team was called, along with an ambulance. There was nothing simple about going into the dark water, not with a vehicle half sunk beneath the surface, and the officer could do little but wait on the bank while the proper crew prepared to enter. All the while, his mind kept returning to the woman. He'd not seen her fall, he'd not heard a splash. There was no sign of anyone in the river apart from the car itself. But she'd been there, he was certain of it. When the divers reached the vehicle, they brought two people out. One was a woman, the other was a young boy, believed to be her son, who'd been in the back seat. Neither of them was breathing. Paramedics began working on them immediately at the riverside. For several minutes, everything seemed to narrow to that desperate effort. The officer watched as they fought to bring the pair back. Then at last the boy responded. He was rushed to hospital alive. The woman couldn't be saved. They tried for 20 minutes, but she never breathed again. It was only afterwards, when the emergency lights were still flashing across the water, and the immediate panic had begun to settle, that the officer understood what he'd seen on that bridge. The woman by the roadside had not disappeared. She'd been in the car. She was the woman pulled from the river. The woman the paramedics had been unable to revive. And whether she had already died by then, or whether something of her had somehow broken free in that final desperate moment, the officer was left with one thought he could not shake. She'd appeared on the bridge to get his attention, not for herself, for the boy in the back seat. A few years ago, an officer was working what seemed like an ordinary night patrol. He'd already responded to several small incidents, the kind that came with the job after dark. Trespassers, domestic disputes, people hanging around where they should not be. Nothing that suggested the night was about to become memorable. Then a call went out to all nearby officers. Someone in a residential area had reported hearing screaming, then gunshots. The location was a vacant parking lot the officer knew well. It was one of those places where young people gathered after dark, usually to drink, smoke, or hide from adults for a few hours. On plenty of nights he'd driven past and watched figures scatter as soon as the patrol car came into view. There'd been fights there before, and the occasional disturbance, but a shooting was not something he would have expected. He had never fired his weapon in the line of duty. He'd drawn it before, and he'd pointed it when he needed to, but actually shooting someone was a line no officer wanted to cross. So when the words "shots fired" came through, he felt his pulse quicken. Still, this was his job, and his first thought was that he needed to get there quickly, and if possible, keep the situation from becoming worse. He radioed dispatch to say he was on his way. The lot was only a few blocks away, but he chose not to use his siren. If someone out there had a gun, arriving with noise and flashing lights might send them into panic, or warn them before he could understand what was happening. Traffic was light, so he made good time without it. At night, the parking lot always had a certain feel to it. It was large, built for hundreds of cars, but vandals had broken most of the lights the city had put in. Once the sun went down, whole sections of it disappeared into shadow. On a normal call, that kind of darkness was inconvenient. On a call involving screaming and gunfire, it became something else. The officer reported that he had arrived, then turned on his spotlight and began sweeping it slowly across the lot. The beam cut through one section at a time, catching stretches of empty tarmac, before being swallowed by darkness again. The lot looked even bigger that way, as if everything outside the light was waiting. He reached for the door handle, thinking it would be easier to search on foot, but stopped himself. If someone was hiding out there with a weapon, stepping out alone would only make him a target. 2 other officers had already said they were responding. He waited for them. 5 minutes later, their patrol cars arrived. The 3 officers spoke briefly and decided how to move in. They would aim their vehicle spotlights in the same direction and enter the lot with the lights behind them, hoping the glare would make it harder for anyone inside to see them clearly if shots were fired. They spread out in a line, close enough to keep sight of one another, but far enough apart that they would not make themselves an easy target. The officer held his flashlight beneath his service weapon as they moved into the open space. Every part of him was alert. His body felt ready to react before his mind had even given the order. He knew that one missed movement, one patch of darkness left unchecked, could put him or one of the others in danger. They searched carefully, moving in a grid, covering the open ground, the corners, and the darker edges of the lot. They found nothing. No sign that anyone had been there at all. After they had cleared the area, they returned to the patrol cars. The officer felt the adrenaline begin to drain away, leaving him suddenly tired. He still had hours left on shift, but for the moment he was relieved. Whatever had been reported, at least it had not turned into the armed confrontation they had feared. He wished the others a good night and reached for his car door. Then a gunshot cracked through the air. A man screamed. All 3 officers reacted at once, throwing themselves behind the nearest patrol car for cover. Weapons came up. Training took over. The officer aimed back toward the lot, toward the direction the sound had come from, even though his mind was already struggling to make sense of it. They'd just searched that place. They had covered it carefully. There had been no one there. Still, the sound had been unmistakable. One sharp shot, followed by a cry of pain. Somewhere in that darkness, it sounded as though someone had fired a gun, and someone else had been hit. The officers shouted into the lot, ordering whoever was there to drop the weapon and come out with their hands raised. No one answered. They shouted again. Still nothing. The sound seemed to have come from a section partly hidden by a wall, an area that had once held a dumpster. The patrol car spotlights were aimed towards it, but the wall blocked their view. If someone was lying hurt behind it, they could not see them from where they were. They could not stay behind cover forever. Together they moved. They ran across the open ground, trying to reach the walled section before whoever was there could react. The officer's flashlight bounced as he sprinted, his weapon up, his finger close to the trigger. He expected at any second to see a person crouched in the dark with a gun. He expected movement, a muzzle flash, the shape of someone trying to run. He reached the opening and swept his light inside. For one awful instant, he was ready to fire, but there was no one there. The space was empty. He turned quickly, checking the corners, the ground, the wall, the shadows around him. The other officers did the same. They searched for a shooter. They searched for the wounded man. They looked for a weapon, shell casings, footprints, blood, any sign at all that something had happened there. There was nothing. No one came running out. No one called from the darkness. No one answered their calls. They searched the entire lot again, slower this time, taking nearly twice as long as they had before. Every corner was checked. Every possible hiding place was examined. They looked for anything that might prove a person had been there when that shot rang out and that scream followed. Again, they found nothing. In all, they spent an hour in that parking lot. By the end of it, the officer felt both unnerved and foolish. Unnerved because all three of them had heard the same thing. Foolish because there was no evidence to support what they had heard. He knew no one had escaped after the shot. One of them would have seen movement or heard footsteps or caught some sign of a person running away. But the lot had stayed empty. And that was what troubled him the most. He considered himself a rational man. He'd heard stories about places where people had died, the kind of stories people tell on long shifts or in quiet moments. Stories that are usually easy to dismiss as exaggeration. But this one had happened to him. More than that, it had happened in front of two other officers, both of whom had heard the gunshot and the scream just as clearly as he had. Only when they went looking for the shooter and the victim, there was nobody there. Just the vacant parking lot, the broken lights, and the darkness where the sound had come from. One afternoon, an officer was sitting in his patrol car, taking a short lunch break. He'd parked across the street from a grocery store, not for any particular reason beyond convenience. He was already in the area. There were empty spaces nearby, and for a few quiet minutes he could sit with his food and flick through the newspaper before the next call came in. Then something drew his attention. Across the road, outside the grocery store, a woman was waving at him. Not casually, but frantically. Her arms moved in urgent, panicked gestures, and her face had the strained look of someone trying desperately to be noticed. At first, the officer thought she must be in distress, but there was something else about her that seemed wrong, something he could not immediately name. She looked pale, more than pale, really. In the daylight, she appeared almost washed out, as though the colour had drained from her. Later, he would remember thinking she seemed close to translucent, but in that moment he dismissed it. Perhaps it was a trick of the light, or a reflection from the glass front of the store. There was no time to stand there thinking about it. A woman was trying to get his attention, and she looked frightened. He put down the newspaper, started the car, and drove across to the grocery store. It only took a minute or two to pull into the car park, but by the time he got there, the woman had vanished. He looked around the outside of the building. There was no sign of her. No cars had pulled away. No one was walking quickly from the entrance. She'd been right there moments before, waving at him from outside the store, and now the space where she had stood was empty. The most obvious explanation was that she'd gone inside, so the officer got out and headed for the entrance. He didn't yet know what he was walking into. It might have been nothing. It might have been a confused customer, a false alarm, some small disturbance that had already passed. But the woman's panic had been real enough to make him check. The moment he stepped through the doors, he knew something was badly wrong. The people inside were terrified. Some were crouched low behind shelves trying to hide. Others had frozen where they were, their attention fixed on something deeper inside the store. No one looked toward the officer as he came in. Their fear was too complete for that. He followed their gaze. Then he drew his weapon and quietly called for backup, warning the other officers not to come in with sirens blaring. Whoever was inside might be armed, and if he was startled, people could die before help arrived. Moving low and fast, the officer slipped behind one of the aisles and looked around the shelving. A man was standing in the middle of the store with a gun in his hand. At his feet, 2 people lay on the floor. There was blood around them, and neither of them were moving. A short distance behind the gunman, another body lay partly in the aisle, half hidden from view. The officer had only seconds to decide what to do. He could wait for backup, but there were people hiding throughout the store, and the man still had the weapon in his hand. If he began shooting again, the situation could become even worse. So the officer watched him closely, waiting for the brief moment when the gunman turned away. Then he moved. He came out from behind the shelving and closed the distance before the man could react, wrenching the gun from his hand and ordering him not to move. Moments later, backup arrived and the suspect was taken into custody. Only then could they begin to understand what had happened. There were 3 people dead inside the grocery store, with another critically injured. Witnesses told the police that the man had stormed in with a gun, shouting that his girlfriend had cheated on him. Later, they learned that his girlfriend worked at that store. She'd been one of the victims. She'd been shot first. The injuries were too severe. There had been no hope of saving her, or the other 2 people who died that day. The gunman had used a silencer, which was why no one outside the store had heard the shots. From the street, nothing had seemed wrong. There'd been no screams reaching the car park. No warning at all, except for the woman. When the officer saw the girlfriend's face, he felt a cold sense of recognition settle over him. It was her, the woman he had seen outside the grocery store. The woman who had stood across the road waving frantically for his attention, pale and almost translucent in the daylight. But that was impossible. She'd been shot first. She'd already been inside the store. She'd been lying there before the officer ever pulled into the car park. And yet he knew what he'd seen. To this day he could not explain it. He did not know whether it was her spirit, somehow reaching beyond the store to warn him, or whether it was something else entirely. But he believed that if he had not seen her, he would have stayed in the patrol car, eating his lunch and reading the newspaper, unaware of the horror unfolding just across the street. And if she had not drawn him over when she did, there may have been more victims before anyone realized what was happening.
The biggest tournament in soccer is finally here, and I've already started planning my watch parties. My go-to move is stopping at Total Wine & More to grab drinks. Wine, beer, seltzers, maybe a few ready-to-drink options. Everything we need for a full day of matches. It definitely helps knowing you're getting the lowest prices. Get match day ready with Total Wine & More today, so you're set from kickoff to the final whistle. Spirits are not sold in Virginia and North Carolina. Drink responsibly. Must be 21.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car's gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Now, I know that some of this was a bit kind of sad and gruesome, but it's also, I don't know, something uplifting to think that they still try to help people, even when something terrible had happened, like the woman in the car and the woman at the store. And it sounds like with the other story in the car park, that perhaps was just like residual. Maybe something had happened in there before. They said about a dumpster and stuff, so I do wonder if something had happened there before. I have no idea what was running past in the fiery building. That did freak me out though, because I just thought as well, what if it was something that started the fire in the first place? Well, that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed, and we will catch you again tomorrow. Take care, everyone.
ActiveCampaign is the marketing automation platform built for big swings and big dreams. Generate ideas in seconds, import your brand, and create full campaigns with simple prompts. Get started for free at ActiveCampaign.com.
4th of July savings are happening now at the Home Depot with select appliances starting at $398. Plus, get free delivery on appliance purchases of $398 or more, no membership required. Upgrade your kitchen with a modern and sleek GE Profile refrigerator featuring hands-free autofill for the perfect pour every time. And make laundry day easier with 2-in-1 washer-dryer combo innovation that completes laundry in about 90 minutes. Shop top brand appliances now at the Home Depot. Offer valid June 17th to July 8th. U.S. only. See store online for details.
If you walk into a room and can't remember why, it could be nothing or something more. If you confuse a familiar recipe, it could be a slip-up. Or it could be associated with amyloid plaque buildup in the brain. Amyloid is a protein that your body produces naturally, but a buildup in the brain could lead to memory and thinking issues. To see what may be behind your memory and thinking issues, talk to your doctor about getting a full assessment. It's never too early to start the conversation. Visit amyloid.com to learn more.
The stories told on the Whispering Woods are inspired by historical records, witness reports, and local folklore. While every effort is made to research and represent events accurately, some details, names, and locations may differ from official accounts or have been changed out of respect for those involved. These episodes are created for storytelling and entertainment purposes and should not be considered definitive fact or investigative journalism.